breaking on the Middle East, and we have learned moments ago Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected that ceasefire proposal, the one that was saying that Hamas would have a 4.5-month ceasefire, all hostages would go free. Secretary of State Blinken is over there as well, discussing this with Netanyahu, and also talks with leaders of Qatar and Egypt. I would like to bring in Ambassador Ric Grenell to get his immediate reaction to what we're hearing. Ambassador, it's always great to have you in. Thank you so much for joining us on this breaking news right now.
Thanks for having me, Bianca.
Obviously, total victory against Hamas is what Netanyahu wants. That's why he's rejecting it. And he says it is actually the only solution and within reach. What do you make of this breaking development and the rejection by Israel?
Well, first of all, let's start from the premise that Hamas is still holding hostages, innocent people that they grabbed. Many of them are Americans. And I think that our Secretary of State should be solely focused on this issue. We should first get the hostages freed. Hamas should give up the hostages before you're going to have any discussion of a deal. What Hamas is trying to do right now is say, we'll give up some of the hostages if you give us Palestinian prisoners. These individuals who the Palestinian Authority and Hamas is asking for are convicted criminals who went through a judicial process, a free and fair judicial process in Israel, to be convicted of a crime. And so the two cannot be equal. And for anyone, including Anthony Blinken, to somehow assume that this deal is a good deal because the two sides are morally equal is really troublesome. What our Secretary of State needs to do is park himself in Doha and go to the Qataris and say, I'm not leaving on my plane. I'm sitting here until I bring the American hostages home. Make no mistake, Qatar can do this if we make it an issue.
He hasn't stayed, as you just alluded to, but he has gone back 5 times. So we know this is also pressing for Joe Biden's reelection bid, sir. You know, we have about a minute left in the program. With American hostages being held, like you said, and some say there's actually intel that is being held back, that they know more than they're even sharing.
Look, the pressure point is to get the hostages released, and then we can talk about how to solve some of these problems. But the focus should be release the hostages before we even talk to you. That's where Blinken is mistaken. He can't go and pressure Netanyahu to kind of cut a deal when the Israelis have hostages, the Americans have hostages. The American Secretary of State should be focused on the American hostages. And there is one country that can actually help here by putting pressure on Qatar. Go and get our hostages free. Then we can have a discussion about how to improve the lives and the situation in the region.
Right, and that is where Hamas leadership is. And as you said, the deal premature right now, and clearly it is dead as well. Ambassador Ric Grenell, obviously a pleasure to have you. A lot of diplomacy we're watching in the coming days. This is also psychological torture as well for the families, and our hearts break for them as well. Ambassador, good to see you, sir.